All right, it must be 11 o'clock and it must be Friday night because I see Will Allred on my computer screen. Will, how are you, buddy?
Doing all right. How you doing, man? It is another explain yourself night, right?
That is it, but we don't have to explain ourselves. Patrick Kellner, you're going to have to explain yourself tonight. Welcome to our show. Appreciate having you. And if someone was walking past your booth at a convention, what would you say in 15 to 30 seconds to let them know about Gage and the Dragon's Tear?
Oh, difficult task, as we earlier discussed. So my book is a medieval fantasy book. The first 3 issues are kind of unraveling 3 various threads that eventually come together. The first one being about the title character Gage. He's a renowned thief. He's been looking for something called the Dragon's Tear, and it's recently resurfaced. That's book 1. Book 2 is about Raven Cal, recently returning home, kind of on a quest for revenge, looking for the guy that killed his dad 10 years earlier. And then the current book is about Dar Haster and the Tolliver family. And that kind of sums it up, I guess, as best as I can right now.
So we've got a third book coming out. How many issues are you thinking this story will unfold through?
So I have 8 issues written and edited. I have another 4 written after that, which is a different character arc. And then maybe 4 or 5 kind of as a thought in my mind, but not hashed out in concrete just yet.
Okay, so about 16 issues, a little bit of a maxi limited, but not a maxi series. Okay, that's not bad at all. We're going to get in depth on that. Oh, Gerald, what is up with you? Good to see you, Gerald, from the Breakneck Anthology. We got to talk to him last week. We are going to do an in-depth talk on Gage and the Dragon's Tear tonight. But before that, we have a campaign from George O'Connor, who was on our show about 3 weeks ago now, Will, 2 or 3. And he has an anthology called Toddler Apocalypse. We're going to bring that up because it is closing in about, well, you know what? Let's open up the page and look at it because I think it's about a half hour to 45 minutes. So we want to make sure.
25 minutes left, man.
25.
I think. Let me verify that.
I am sharing that screen, so we're going to find out. I see.
No,
54.
Yeah.
Nope. Oh, yeah, 54. We saw that screen go up to over $8,800. Well, Toddler Apocalypse is an absolutely hilarious premise. If you didn't see the show that George was on, it's six different, I believe, stories about end of times and how having a young child, which Patrick is in the throes of, could make the end of the world even more frustrating and terrible than you would think it would be. So as somebody I've got a 13-year-old, Will's got twin grown adults. What do you think about, the apocalypse with a child that you absolutely adore, I'm sure, but is 4.5? What do you think it would be like?
Well, my wife is an ICU nurse, so I almost feel like I live there now.
Oh, okay.
Just dealing with her schedule. But yeah, that would be quite the difficult situation. I'm sure there's a lot of times you'd be thinking about just pitching the little guy away for some bait so you could make an escape.
I mean, you gotta make it so you can make more after the apocalypse, right? I mean,
exactly.
Little guy can't have kids for 10 years. You can have more right now. Well,
yeah,
9 months. It's just math.
It's good science.
Good.
So absolutely, I adore the concept of Toddler Apocalypse. The artwork on it is incredible. If you haven't been there, check out the campaign before it closes. Maybe we'll try to sneak out over there before it closes and get back on it.
And George has put together an awesome team. Lots of great writers and artists on this. And George is, an awesome dude too.
Yeah, fabulous dude. So, you know what? Right now, let's get into Gage, because talking about an awesome team and awesome artwork, I'm going to pull up the screen. Actually, before that, I'm going to pull up your actual.
And we do have some comments. I'll pull those up while you're doing that. So what do we call ourselves? Yeah.
Wait.
I don't know.
You know what? That's up to you guys. I'm
Yeah.
not even going to get involved. You guys call yourself what you want. What you want. We're just happy you're here.
Yeah.
So
and our buddy Blake, know thyselfers.
Yes. I think that's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
All right, I'm going to pull up the screen for Gage because I forgot to put the URL on the banner, so I can copy that while we're on the page. So this is you know what, a well-oiled machine that you joined, Patrick. I don't know if you realized how professional Will and I actually were when you said yes to joining us.
Well, I should fit right in here then.
Absolutely. Yeah, as I just deleted your URL instead of copying it.
Nice.
This is in real time, people. Real time.
That's right.
Forget it. It's fine. Who is the art team on this? Because the preview pages you had are absolutely incredible. Like,
okay, so the all the line work is done by, and I'm going to butcher his last name, Donnie Hadiwajaja. He's from Indonesia, so he penciled and inked all of this stuff. I've pretty much worked exclusively with him on all the stuff I've done. I did have, and the colors are by DC Alonso. I did do a variant cover this time. It's something I hadn't done before. Georges Jonty.
Yeah.
He did Buffy. I think he's on the Star Wars books now. He's a local guy, and I'd met him several times. Dragon Con is something I kind of always go to just as a civilian, not as anything with comics.
Yeah.
I'd met him several times down there, and he was always a really nice guy. So when I saw him there this last summer, or I'm trying to think when it has been. Yeah, it was this last summer, the pandemic and whatnot. I just kind of, what would you charge me to do this? And are you interested? And we ended up putting it together. So that is who did the variant cover in DC. He colored that cover as well.
George's is the first artist I ever bought in an interior page from.
Me too.
I got a Buffy page with a really beautiful shot of basically Sarah. It was just gorgeous. Got Xander and Buffy on the page, and I was having a terrible convention. I was upset. Everything was going wrong, and so I just got out my wallet and just spent my way into happiness. But I have an amazing Georges Jonty page from it, so I guess that's okay.
Yeah, that's not a bad strategy. That's you come home with something that way for sure.
Now, is this cover, this variant cover,
homage?
Is it available in this campaign?
It is. You can actually buy that artwork. That artwork is available, and obviously the books with that cover are available as well.
Oh yeah, it's gorgeous. Hell of a nice guy too. Really is.
Yes.
Nice person. So where did the idea first germinate for Gage and the Dragon's Tear?
I thought about that, just about that character and kind of a scene kind of flashing into my head. And I don't know how everybody else does it, but I have like some kind of a solid idea just about a person or even a scene. And then it's kind of what if questions or who are these people? How did they get here? And I honestly, like, when I first came up with this idea, I was like, it'd be cool to do that as animation. And then of course you quickly start looking at what it takes to produce animation, the workload, the cost, the team of people you'd have to have. And it's like, okay, well, that's not something you jump into with no experience.
So instead, you got an artist who can give you waves crashing that actually looks like it's moving on a static image.
Well, you know what? I probably started messing with this like 10 years ago. So I'm the youngest of four. My middle brother is one of those guys who's got he's got some talent for art, but just never did anything with it. And so I kind of started with him like, hey, what do you think? You want to do this? And he was the one who initially got me into comics. And, we started kicking around ideas, and it's like he just wasn't committed to it. And the idea kind of died. I kind of considered doing it as prose, and I just don't find, I read as many prose books as I do comics, but I didn't find that method of creation to be very satisfying. It's like you sit at the computer, you type, you got this, Word document or whatever. But the visual elements, the artistic side of it, I liked. That's what, so I kind of circled back to that and was like, well, this is still on my mind. And of course, rookie mistake, start with an 8-issue project, the epic fantasy, as opposed to shorts like everybody tells you.
Yeah.
So I eventually circled back to it. I went through a couple of different people I was working with to do character designs. And then I eventually hooked up with Ed, who's the letterer, and that he's kind of been a real key ingredient for me getting any of this stuff done. Just, that I'm sure everybody that does this has that one person they meet that's like actually helpful, that's not trying to rip them off, that's giving them real good information. And I used Ed's website, which I don't even know if they have up now, which was Digital Webbing. And that's how I found Donnie. And then I started having Donnie kind of chip away at this. So I actually finished that whole first issue before I did a Kickstarter. I just, over the course of a year and a half or something, just a couple pages at a time.
Yeah. So Gerald says, "Damn, that's one savage looking book." I agree. When I saw this artwork, I was just like, it's amazing. And you know what? It's fantasy, so you're right, and you're speaking my language. I see swords, I see shields, I see art like that. I'm in.
Yeah, it's all Donnie. I mean, that's the best. The art is the best salesperson for the book. Is like, here it is.
So we're looking 16 issue maxi series, possibly about 12 issues, definitely map strong. If you do get to that 16 that you're thinking about, would that be a definitive ending, or are there maps that you could follow in your world?
I have not thought much beyond that point, because it's one of those things, right now what I've been able to do is one book a year. So you start talking about 6, it's like that's a long ways off unless things really pick up, unless we really start hitting a lick on some of these Kickstarters, man. So to be honest, I know for me too, as a creator, I can definitely be stalled by the fact that you have an idea and it's like, it's not going to be produced. It's going to sit on a shelf. So that's definitely something that slows me down. And I just have not thought, much beyond those 16 issues at this point.
No, I when I started Tart with Ludo, both of us, knew nothing about actually making comics. We both liked comics, and we had a story we wanted to tell. And what I didn't know, and Will has heard the story, what I didn't know is that French artists are used to doing one 42-page book a year. And what he didn't know is that American creators are, looking to do 10 to 12, 18 to 22 page issues a year. And we were so ignorant, neither one of us told the other one what we were expecting. And we have averaged out to about 4 issues a year, which is right in the middle of him wanting to do 1 and me wanting to do 10 to 12. And I laid out about a 42-page epic because, just like you, I thought it's got to be a long series for anyone to want to make it, right?
Yep.
And so we were having a conversation, and he's like, "This is going to be like a 12-year project." And I'm like, "No, it's going to be like a 4-year project." And then both of us realized what we were looking at.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what?
The aha moment.
You don't know what you don't know. Shawnee, we can start the show. Shawnee's here.
But in Kevin's defense, they're up to issue 14 now. I mean, that's just amazing. Yeah. And I'm gonna embarrass Kevin. What do I have here, Kevin? Woo.
I'm never embarrassed about Connor's art on my book. It will be a sort of a show exclusive. Tart 14, just Comic Impressions delivered it to my door today. So part of the reason I couldn't get, you were nice enough to send Gage, and I wasn't able to get to it because I've been bagging and boarding 200 comics today to start fulfillment. So I hope you can forgive me, but I had
It'll
to.
Be there.
You got to take care of your backers, right?
That's right.
Priorities.
So yeah, so in the chat they're taking a poll. Are the watchers of Explain Yourself explainers, yourselfers, or know thyselfers? I can't wait to see what you guys decide.
That's right.
I
And
want it to be like my
Ignacio's
favorite.
out there too.
Yeah, I want to be like My Favorite Murder, where we can look on Etsy and people are stitching this stuff
Yeah.
on things.
Shipping. Sorry.
Yes.
So this is your third campaign. How all three of them, I assume, have been on Kickstarter. How's kind of your experience been with? I mean, there's the art side of what we do. The writing, the art, and the project management stuff, and then there's Kickstarter, which is its whole other thing. So,
I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong or if your experience has been different, but when you start doing this, you find out that the comic book business is the marketing business, just like every other business. And that's, I don't think anybody gets into doing comics because they want to be in marketing, but probably like you guys as well, like a lot of stuff, just kind of taking advice and kind of learning from the ground up, like how you approach this and how you're supposed to do it. And, not learning fast enough or learning enough, period. Like, I don't have a handle on how you should do ads. That kind of seems like a kind of a mystery to me. I think I ran a couple for the first campaign. I really don't know if I had the analytics to figure out if they were working the right way. And even doing this stuff, like I'm not a in front of the camera guy. I'm not somebody that, seeks out attention. So this is the first time that I've done any of these interviewing with people. So, but clearly it's an important piece of the puzzle. So trying to learn this, trying to step out of the comfort zone a little bit and do these kind of things seems to help, seems to make a difference.
I think it does. People getting to, especially in crowdfunding, people getting to know the creators is important because, people are really pulling for the book and or the creators. Now, hopefully, once they've read the book, they're pulling for both. That's the goal is to either be a good enough marketer to get people to the book and then them loving the book enough that who cares if you market well, or having a book so good that marketing doesn't matter, but kind of doing both is the goal. But you can only be so good at either. So you constantly
on job.
It can feel like it. I know that I'm kind of goofy enough that I say something stupid on Twitter every day that doesn't have anything to do with marketing. And then I can do like 2 or 3 marketing tweets and feel like, like I'm not just selling, but I'm just being an idiot. I'm like, all right, like my wife's not here to be an idiot too. So I'm going to go to Twitter.
Well, and another thing too, the indie comics in general are just a really supportive bunch of people. But then there's the Kickstarter comics community too, and they're extremely, extremely supportive. And then just getting to meet all these other creators. I mean, that's one of the great things about doing this. I mean, I get to chat with Kevin every week, which is, that's the reason I do this. But but getting to hear how you do something or something, I'm not going to speak for Kevin, but I'm basically writing stuff down to steal every week, so that's what I do.
Yeah, I steal blatantly when somebody has a great idea, and just usually I'll give them credit if I remember it, but I still, I don't do them as much, but I used to do first day prints. If you back in the first day, you get a print, and I just stole that whole hog from Tyler James. I saw Tyler James do it. I thought it was a good idea, and I just stole it. But I always said, hey guys, I stole this from Tyler James. So I gave him credit, but I definitely stole it.
Well, that's something that he had said before, which is like something I have trouble with, is like, you are not your ideal customer. And so those ideas, I'm always like, well, I wouldn't care about that. I'm just buying a book. Like, so a lot of those ideas don't occur to me, or I wouldn't follow through with them for that very reasons. And it's, it's something, again, part of that learning curve, figuring out how and what to do. Getting out of your own way.
And Comics Launch has been such a help. I mean, I've said this before, I probably wouldn't have any successful Kickstarters if it weren't for, Tyler and Comics Launch, just because there was so much I didn't know. And he's got such a great, the podcast and the classes. It's just awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
No,
I apologize, Kevin. That calculator, it's like that was one of the first things where it's like, okay, a book is going to cost me X number of dollars per page. It's this many pages. That's this much. Okay, how much can I raise? Like, a tenth of what I need. So I guess I better get a little more of this done before I take it to the platform.
You talked about ads. We are not sponsored by Comics Launch, but both Will and I met in Comics Launch, and I do recommend it. I don't recommend the podcast. I tell you have to listen to the first 12 to 15 episodes of the podcast. You have to go back to whatever it was 2016 when he started. You have to listen to those dozen or so podcasts.
Yep.
And then I would cherry pick podcasts throughout the years of anything that seems interesting, because Tyler is a wealth of information and he gives a ton of it away for free.
Yes, absolutely.
You can also then invest in yourself with the Comics Launch course and get a lot more actionable things that I found worth my investment. So Tyler hasn't given us a penny to say this, but both Will and I got so much out of Comics Launch, we're willing to say it about it.
Well, the community that you become a part of when you're a member there is worth its weight. That's worth what you pay to be in that program, pretty much right there.
Now, you are right, Gerald. We are sponsored by Microsoft Excel whenever Phil Falco is on. Now
that's my buddy Phil. That's right, Phil, right here.
We're going to talk about haunting later. So, we'll partially say that Microsoft Excel is sponsored tonight. But since he's not on screen, it's not quite as serious. Now, one thing Blake of the Blake Buzz podcast says, your Kickstarter has pretty solid numbers for not doing many or any interviews. So that's great, because if you can get to this level of success and you're just now opening yourself up to this, then there's so much room to grow. And the thing is, each individual podcast might get you in front of 3, 5, 10, 50 people, depending on the podcast. But in aggregate, if it's 3, 5, 10, 15, 50, and you do 20, a dozen of these, you got the chance to get 25 to 100 extra backers. And at the end of the day, 25 to 100 extra backers is enormous, right?
Yes.
So
and then, so this is only the second one I've done, and I've only got 5 days left. So this may be the last hurrah as far as the interview circuit for me. But something I'll bring to the table next time when the next campaign fires up.
Yeah, I have a feeling that you might be able to send an email to Blake for issue 4 and see if he's got 45 minutes for you, because he's a really great interviewer. I'm just mad because I haven't figured out the time with him yet. Usually he does his interviews when I'm eating dinner, so I've got to figure out how to get on his podcast.
That is another hurdle. Is like, I'll be here with my son. I told you the last interview I did was JD Calderon, and my wife's birthday was the day before, and so that day she was going to dinner with her friends, and it's like, I couldn't be like, hey, I'm doing a comic book interview. She'd be like, no, I'm going to dinner. But she had a 6:00 reservation. I was like, all right, she'll be home by 8. That interview starts at 7:30. I can manage him for 30 minutes. I know I can. I can keep him off screen.
Right.
And by the end of the interview, she wasn't home, and he climbs up in my lap like as I'm sitting here and goes to sleep.
Hey,
it's like, well, this is how it went down.
Nothing wrong with that. Now, I did notice this comment.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Gerald says, straight up, part of the biggest success I put on the networking with other creators through these podcasts and shows, the indie comics creator community is so supportive, and you get out what you put in. Absolutely, you get out what you put in. You Will and I make no bones about this. We started this show with a crossover division campaign running and a TARP campaign running. And Will's, you were only running for that first week of the show, right?
I think so. Or Yeah, I think so. Like
One or two.
Yeah.
And I told everybody I'm running for 3 weeks. I'm going to do this every Friday night. And Will was like, I'm coming back next week. I said, okay.
Yeah.
And then the next week he's like, I'm coming back next week. I said, okay. And then I closed my campaign and I emailed him. I'm like, I'm having fun. You want to just keep doing this? He's like, yeah, okay.
Sure.
So we started this just kind of, let's get together with everybody who has a campaign. Let's talk about each other's stuff. And, I talked about Tart. He talked about Crossover Division. We got out plenty of our, marketing, but it's been really fun to meet like George O'Connor, meet M. Sorcier, like a lot of people that I didn't know. Carl Schleminski, that guy slings ink like a motherfucker.
Totally.
We have an inside joke on this show from a guy I'd never met a month ago. It's beautiful.
And he might be goth. We don't know.
Yeah.
And another challenge that we have is, lining up. I mean, Kevin and I are night owls, but when you're talking about, hey, I want to get my art team on, Alice for me is in France, Ludo is in France, and you've got this time differential. So I'm sure
Philippines,
Indonesia,
right?
Yeah.
Oh, Indonesia. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's Donnie's in Indonesia. Same thing. So it's like, trying to pull everybody together is definitely a huge hurdle to jump over.
And it was funny. The before Alice started working, Alice Leclerc, I said, hey, let's try to get together as a time. So I got Alice together. I got Ryan Kroboth, who's an awesome dude, as the colorist.
Super nice guy.
Yeah, and I got
he's okay.
Yeah, Brant Fowler, another
He's
great guy. Yeah, he's okay too. And James Powell.
Yeah,
awesome
I got him editing something for me now.
Oh,
and
nice.
We got together for just like a 30-minute, hangout with video. Just saying, hey, this is us. This is the creative team. And I was surprised at how much fun something like that was. And but again, it's a struggle because and tell your magic art elf story, Kevin.
Well, I mean, I'm sure you feel this is I usually write in the evening and I'll send Ludo an email. I go to sleep. I wake up, there's something in my email that's drawn. It's like, it's literally is like I went to sleep and elves made shoes and I woke up and they were there. It's so beautiful to
Very
have
nice.
that. And I'm sure you have that because he's in Indonesia. So he's working when you're sleeping and vice versa.
Yep. Yeah. We're a 12-hour difference. So it's like, I'll be getting up, he's going to bed. Like same exact thing happens all the time. Yeah. It'll be like, here's some layouts that I didn't know were coming in. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
nice art emails are the best emails.
Yes.
Yeah. So I noticed you said DC Alonso did the coloring. You said you kind of got through him, or the letterer was kind of your into the team?
Ed Dukeshire was he was kind of just the guy that really helped me out and kind of started pointing me in the right direction. I'm sure everybody has the same thing where like you come in, you don't know what things are supposed to cost. I remember I had somebody quote me like $300 a page for pencils and inks. And it's like very quickly as an indie guy, you're like, whoa, man, like, okay, so I guess I'm done here. Like that's an insurmountable task. And it's like, that guy's trying to make money. I get it. But it's like, I mean, I was basically just about out of it at that point right there. So somebody like Ed, who's super experienced and has kind of worked everywhere and kind of knows what things are. He was super, super helpful. And kind of point me in the right direction, kind of get me rolling.
Yeah, and it's very tough because $300 a page for somebody working in America is not it's an exorbitant amount to pay as an indie writer. Yep. It's not an exorbitant amount for an artist to be paid for doing the page.
Yeah.
Because of everything that goes into it. So it is very difficult because you hear that huge rate and you go 300 times 24. Holy shit. And you kind of go back and forth and you try to figure out they're not asking a crazy number. It's just a crazy number to pay, especially with the margins of a comic book.
And that doesn't include colors
or
lettering or editing.
Yeah, no, it's difficult, but sometimes you get the positive currency exchange can work out for you.
Yep.
It didn't work out, but I once tried to hire a Russian artist, and at that point the ruble was just dying, and I was able to pay him very little in American money, and it was paying him quite well. It just didn't work out because of creative things, but you kind of feel good that you can really help somebody sustain their life elsewhere because of a currency exchange. Now, I two French people were, the currency exchange actually doesn't work in anybody's favor. I don't have any idea about Indonesian money, but I hope it works out for you in that way. But yeah, you gotta figure stuff out, and whatever you're paying the artist, you don't have to say, is worth every single penny, because the images you're showing is absolutely incredible.
Well, and I've been working, like I said, almost exclusively with Donnie, and it's like you have a couple of bad experiences with artists, and I don't know. I work in the real world. I work in real estate, and the stuff that I see people kind of in the artistic endeavors do from a business standpoint, I'm like, do you guys really want to do this? Or I don't get what you're doing here. So, you get comfortable with somebody that's a good artist and is handling your vision well. And it's like, so I haven't really even considered looking for other artists at this point for any of the pages.
I don't think there's any reason. The longer you can have a co-creator that's part of the team, DC Hopkins is my letter on every book that I can possibly get him on, because, I can trust him. He's within my budget. He's extraordinarily talented. Like, you stick with the team because they're the reason. Everybody else makes the writer look good, and we get all this credit for it because the team is awesome. Speaking of money, Charlie Stigney says this show costs me money every week. Us too.
Yeah.
Like
and that's our goal ultimately.
I mean, our goal is to get these campaigns funded and to get great comic books. But yeah, we really need the actual Microsoft Excel money, Wills, to pay for some of these at some point.
We'll have to work on that more. I'll talk to Phil.
That's it. Blake says, how's it work with Kickstarter and art? Does it come from funding? Do you pay it up front? And this is something I'm have to think about right now. Do you want to take that in your case, Patrick?
Okay, so my first book, I paid 100% out of pocket until it was finished. I never stepped to Kickstarter until I had paid for everything. And the way that I do it now still is like, I'm not going to ask somebody on a bet like, hey man, if this works out, you'll get paid. Like, I don't do that with anybody. Everybody, and it's something I say, like, I always send out an email whenever I cross the funding goal, which is like, hey everybody, don't get, just because we reach the goal, there's a long way to go before we're at a break-even point. And it's only the artists that are getting paid. Like, I'm not going to Spago once this thing closes. Like, the artists get paid, and I'm just trying to fill in the gaps. So all the work that I do, I pay it out of pocket. And then you go to Kickstarter, and whatever I can recoup is what I recoup. And then that pretty much goes into the next project.
Yeah, Ignacio answered, it depends on each creator, Blake. And so there's kind of there's a math to it. You've got to figure out what you can afford and how much of the project you can have finished before you get to Kickstarter. The simple math, Blake, is the more of your project is done, the more backers will trust you to deliver.
Yes.
Because car accidents happen and sprained wrists happen, and people's computers dying happen, I have 100% of the artwork done before I come to a campaign, which means I have to, 9 times out of 10, I have to pay for it. Now, Ludo and I have been working together a long time. There have been some campaigns where he said, you can pay me after the Kickstarter. I'm okay for this, or vice versa. But for the most part, Ludo is finished with his line art and his colors, and he's paid before the Kickstarter campaign. I then have to make a decision. Is my goal printing $2,000 to $4,000, or is my goal printing plus artwork $8,000 to $10,000? My thought has always been, because I'm not really a gambler, I've already paid for the art. I need to recoup what I can recoup, and it's all or nothing. So my goals are to get it printed, and then stretch goals try to get me back to the artwork. That's the way I do it. Some people say, I need $22,000 to do this, and when we get the money, the artist is going to start. That is something that you can only do if you have an incredible amount of built-up trust of delivering. I can't speak for Pat Shand, but he has built up enough trust that I don't believe all of his projects are finished when he kickstarts. But he's done 5 volumes of Destiny New York. He's delivered them all, and he's always creating, delivering. So he's built that up, Blake. I recommend you getting as much of your book done as you can afford without, not eating. And then coming to Kickstarter.
Creator with a new project too, you're going to have a real hard time selling something when you can't even show them what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, it's going to be great. Just trust me. Don't. That's going to be a tough putt.
Well, yeah, go ahead. Oh, there's just a lot of these things you have to figure out that work for you, and everybody kind of starts here and there and finds out where they are.
Well, that's when I started issue 1. It's like I had the exact same thoughts. Like, okay, well, I'll get to like page 12 and I'll have a preview, and then I'll be able to get the rest of the book. But then again, you go to that calculator and it's like, that's not quite going to do it. So I have to adjust the plan. I have to get more of this done. It has to be pushed further down the line before you can kind of get to that point.
Yeah.
Well, and with the way I've done, crossover division, my goal is to always have the art done before we kickstart. Now life gets in the way, and typically by the time we do a Kickstarter, we're usually about 3/4 of the art is finished. So if it's not going to be that, because I figure then we've got the month of the Kickstarter, and then we've got at least 2 weeks after, that gives us some wiggle room there, because the Kickstarter is 30 days, 31 days, and then Kickstarter won't release funds for around 10 to 14 days. So that's other time that we can be doing things that, in preparation for when we need to go. I always, and I hope my artists will back me on this, but I always really try to be as understanding as possible when it comes to art, because art is so physically intensive, and I want to make sure that they feel like me as the writer and project manager or whatever, plus the rest of the team, is really there supporting them, because it's a big deal. I mean, 24 pages, and I'm one of those guys that do 24 pages. So 24 pages of art is a commitment, and it's a marathon, and it's just so difficult. And I've got nothing but respect for artists that can do it, especially my artists. Love my artists. So.
Yeah, no, it's Blake. I mean, throw out whatever's on your mind with all this, because it's part of what we're here for. Is if you have a question and we can kind of go through it. One of the things about these questions is I don't think about these things until somebody asks me. So I learn what I think sometimes answering questions. So if you've got anything, Blake, we're happy to go through it. Gerald put up. Or new creators can come talk to Ignacio and I about their first short anthologies. Yeah, you could be in Breakneck Volume. Well, I think Breakneck Volume 2 is pretty close to full.
Maybe 3.
3, 4. Yeah, Breakneck is a fantasy black and white anthology, which we're going to talk about in depth a little. Well, not in depth. We're going to do our short little thing at the end. But every one of the creative teams was pretty much their first, 6 to 8 pages of comic produced, which is kind of a lovely thing. The insane thing about it is it's all unbelievably beautiful art. So it's like they found like 4 or 5 artists that are going to be working for Marvel, Image, and DC in the next 5 years, and they're all in this first volume of an anthology. So it's pretty insane.
Yeah.
Ignacio wrote, dude, I remember doing the 50 pages for Killaroo and the days blended together, and I even worked in my dreams. Oh, wow.
50 pages. That's a heavy lift, man.
Yeah.
Bravo.
I used to bartend at the pool at the Hard Rock. Do you guys see the commercials for the Guitar Hotel? No.
Where was that?
Well, it's down here in South Florida, but we watch a lot of Hulu, and the ad for the Guitar Hotel is on it all the time. I don't know, maybe it's a South Florida thing, but they have a tropical pool down there, and I used to bartend there. So one 4th of July, I think I probably did about 1,200 pina coladas, rum runners, or strawberry daiquiris in a shift a day, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And I came into work on Monday and I told my boss, you owe me overtime. He said, why? I said, because I made fucking frozen daiquiris for you all night as I slept. I literally, my dreams were just doing this. The worst fucking night of my life. So Ignacio, I can't draw, but I understand.
So you've got how much time left on this Kickstarter? Did it just launch?
No, I got 5 days left.
5 days left.
Closing in on it, man.
Awesome. Well, any plans? I mean, I know, Kevin and I were talking about kind of how we got started doing this. It was basically, a last hour countdown of our campaigns, and then we kind of enjoyed it. So, anything planned for your backers or your tribe?
I don't have anything special like that planned off the top of my head. I tell you, man, this year ended in kind of it was a tough end to 2021. I had a lot of stuff. I haven't kind of gone into it. I don't want to, put it out and maybe something I'll talk about after the campaign. Just, I guess one of the big things is my wife was in school for the last 15 months while working full time. And so honestly, I'm not as prepared coming into this campaign as I would like to have been, but I'd set the date. So it's like, hey, you got to push forward and get it done. So maybe some of the fireworks and things may be missing as far as any kind of special thing like that is concerned.
Well, I will say, make sure you have the page open on the campaign, because there will be fireworks.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's hope.
Yeah, I mean, you look good. You're past your funding goal. I saw it go up when I went to look at it just now. So you've had like 2 or 3. So what you don't understand is you're getting into the last 5 days of the explain yourself bump.
That's right.
The numbers after this are going to be extraordinary. You don't understand. It might just be 2 backers, but we take credit for both.
Totally. Yeah. It's totally.
If it's 20 backers, we take credit for 20. Even people we've never met, buddy.
Yeah. Never seen the show.
I think it's due.
Although Blake does say you got 25 from him and Shawnee. So I think we actually technically can truthfully take credit.
I really appreciate it, guys. Thanks everybody.
Because we back everything too.
Yeah, we take a lot of credit for shit that we didn't do. So it's kind of funny when it actually does happen. So Blake and Shawnee and anyone else who did back, we do thank you, and Charlie.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys.
But I mean, all we can do is get people to. We do joke about this, but all we can do is tell people that the project exists and here's the page. Yep. You got the backer, you created the project, you created the book. And
I always pass credit along to Donnie. I always feel like his art is what sells it. I'm kind of just giving him an opportunity to do what he does is what it feels like a lot of the time.
Yeah.
You know what? That's it's true. I don't know of a writer who doesn't say that, because we understand.
It's a visual medium.
Yeah.
They sit. Go ahead.
We're talking about us being writers and worshiping our artists, but you've talked about kind of how you met, through digital webbing. What does the collaboration between you and Donnie look like? Are you full script? Are you how does that look?
Okay, so I do everything full script, but I always tell Donnie, like, hey man, you're the visual guy. Like if you need another panel, if you need less panels, like if something you can get it done better than what I've got on the page, man, have at it. Like I try to get out of those guys' way as much as possible and not be like, hey, it absolutely must look like this, you know. And I kind of feel like those guys work better when you do that. Like, hey, do what you do. You know your skill set better than I do, and you know, let them do the work, and that seems to be the best results. The way I've gotten the best results out of Donnie, just kind of let him take the page and get it done.
Yeah, I mean, I think I remember, and Kevin will probably correct me on this if I got it wrong, but
God damn right I will.
I think Neil Gaiman said it best. It's kind of you know, a script is like a long letter to your artist. And it kind of just explains things, and it's a place to start. It's not the be all end all. It's just the first step.
Well, yeah, and to go that, he learned it from Alan Moore, and you know, Alan Moore's scripts are, he'll do like a 13 pages of his script for page 1.
Yeah, I've read that too.
And then at the you know, so panel 1 will be 4 pages long in a script, and then the last sentence will be, I don't know, that's how I see it. You draw it any way you want. Which is beautiful because he's thought about it so much. He has such a grand idea, and also he's not precious about it. And he's Alan fucking Moore.
No shit.
You know, but you know, there are some writers who are extraordinarily. I just looked it up to make sure I remember. Ed Brubacher, I heard him interviewed once, and he said, well, I'm the writer, so I write what is on the page, and then they draw what I want them to draw. But he's Ed Brubacher, so he can do that too. You know, like it kind of, everything works how you make it work. But I would definitely say if you haven't written 400 comic scripts, I definitely let your artist play a little bit before you get to.
Well, the interesting thing is Donnie ultimately does pretty much stick to what I've got there, and he's just able to give, you know, a more dynamic view than what I would have thought, a much better panel. You know, what I've said is there, and he's done it better than I envisioned it in my head.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say 90% of the changes that I've seen an artist make have made the story better. And the 10% that haven't is usually translation. Yeah. You know, he mistranslated English to French, or I was stupid and I just used a throwaway English phrase that doesn't make any sense to him, and it confused him. Yeah. So although one time that happened and he got confused and drew something different, and it made it 1,000 times better. So even mistranslations can make your comic better, kids. Yeah. Well, it is 11:50, and we know we've kept you up past your regular bedtime. So what we're going to do now is say thank you very much. We're going to go show the page real quickly because this is one of those nights where we've got one person on the panel. So why shouldn't we check your campaign out and show that art one more time? And then Will and I are going to talk about the campaigns that are still alive. And you do not have to hang with us if it's time to kind of get some rest. I don't want to. And
we're not going to talk about you next week, unfortunately.
No,
you're ending.
This is your one time.
What coming to a close?
I did your catch-up tier because I had missed campaigns for issues 1 and 2. Yep. So hopefully the people who are just hearing you will look at that. What is a tier that you're especially excited about? I'm going to run down to where the tier packages are.
Which one am I excited about?
Yeah, like if someone was coming to you and they'd already read issues 1 and 2, what would you want them to know?
Somebody buy some of those shirts. I got to print a bunch of them.
Yeah, shirts are.
I always make shirts just because I like shirts. Like I make nothing on those.
Yeah.
And especially this campaign because I haven't sold enough of them. You know, it's
there
that
might be a
variant
reason.
covers.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
there
I'm
might
sorry.
be a reason why you can get a shirt from Tart's first campaign and second campaign, and not the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, or ninth campaign.
Or 10th, 11th. Yeah.
Yeah, I would do a shirt if that was the campaign.
Yeah.
That
I think the variant cover is kind of a cool thing to grab.
is
It's
George's.
It's a first thing. So, and that one right there is both of the covers signed.
Oh, nice.
And I actually got George's to agree to sign some of his covers.
Oh, wow.
So that's kind of a cool thing too, that you'll be able to get that. Obviously, I can't get Donnie to sign stuff. It's not a feasible thing for me to ship stuff to Indonesia and then him ship it back.
Yeah.
So that's not an option. But it would be pretty cool to get both of those autographs on that cover.
But $150 for an interior page of this artwork is not. I mean, that's a good price for interior art.
Yes,
that's well worth it. The
Those
interior
one
cover.
of my best friends bought that interior cover, and somebody else grabbed the cover of Donnie's.
Oh, nice. So
yeah,
this one's gone. You guys are too late. Sorry, we should have gotten you. But George is still around now. $500 is definitely a higher price point, but it's George's Genty.
Yeah, if you price, and granted, I'm not Dark Horse, but if you price what his covers go for, just look some of them up on Heritage. You're not getting one for $500.
No, not at all. No, it's not a bad price for. It's a good value, even if it's higher. And guess what? As Tyler says, we are not our audience.
Exactly.
$500 to us. $500 to us could be $50 to someone else, or could be $5,000 to someone else. It really.
And if nobody grabs it, that bad boy will be in a frame on my wall.
That's not a bad consolation prize.
Exactly.
Hey, I want to. Sorry, I want to jump in for just a second. We're, I think, down to about the last 3 minutes of Toddler Apocalypse.
Ooh.
So I'm going to put that up there, and about 3 more minutes to go. George and team have hit $9,059, which is amazing. Awesome. Yeah. 234 backers. So if anybody's out there and you've not backed it yet, give it a look. I've got the link up there. It's something that is really cool, and I think you'd enjoy. Yeah, no, it's a great thing, and you got 4 minutes. I would do if you're listening to this on the podcast. I mean, I'm sure George could send it to you at some point, but too late for you. You guys got to come on live on Friday nights to get some of these. But that's right.
I would just say, Patrick, thank you. The book looks great. Let's put up the banners for the other. The things that are still live, and let's let Patrick get to sleep. That's right. Thanks.
Hey guys, I really appreciate you letting me come on, and
it was great to meet you
sometime.
Absolutely, we'll be one of your dozen interviews next campaign.
That's right.
God willing. All right, you guys have a good one. We'll talk later.
Absolutely.
All right.
Drumsticks of Doom. John Westhoff's indie rocker book about if Black Sabbath had been the world's biggest band instead of the Beatles, it would have brought about some of the terrors that your grandparents told you would happen if heavy metal ruled the world, and demons and werewolves and all kinds of things happen. We don't know exactly about this, but John's a great dude, and this looks like a real fun comic.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And then I think we mentioned it earlier, ending on February 28th, we've got the Breakneck Fantasy Anthology by some guy. What was his name? I don't know. He was just on the tip of my tongue.
I don't know. Gerald and Ignacio kind of hang out with us, so
sometimes, yeah.
But we don't know what to call them yet. Next week we'll be able to say if they are yourselfers or what are they?
what are they?
Explainers, yourselfers, or know thyselfers. I know what I would vote for, but I don't think that I'm allowed to vote. I don't think we're allowed. Or just some assholes. You know what? That's perfect for Will and I.
That's us, yeah.
You know you belong if you're some asshole. Fabulous book, Breakneck fantasy, black and white, extraordinary art. I jump on the art because I haven't read it. They were nice enough to send me the PDF like weeks before, and I forgot, and I forgot to read it. So I can read it, but I haven't, and I apologize. But that is that for Breakneck. Definitely would check it out if I were you. Oh, he came up, Pat Shand. Prison Witch Volume 3. This is the finale of his a witch's coven in prison story. You can get all 3 volumes. That's what I almost said that's what she said, but that's what I did. And I watched a lot of The Office today, bagging and boarding. So it's Pat Shand book. So I mean that's kind of all I have to say about backing that one, but definitely worth your time. This next one is sponsored by Microsoft Excel. Phil Falco's Haunting. This little piece of shit brings ghosts into the real world, and they come pissed and angry and murderous, and he doesn't care until he meets a very religious woman named Faith, and she cares, and maybe he'll get his soul back over the 8 to 12 issues, but I'm not sure. Very great art, cool story. Phil's a great guy. So The Haunting, you can catch up on that as well in the campaign. Charlie Stickney was on. He was here with The Adept, young lady who is taught martial arts as she sleeps. So she dreams that she's learning martial arts until she goes to a concert with her estranged little sister and sees the man who has been teaching her martial arts in her dreams on stage, looking like he may be attacking, but is actually protecting the lead singer in the thing. So back to issue 1, back to issue 2. Charlie's friend of ours, friend of the show's, and
fantastic art by Yishan Lee.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah, and sticking within our martial arts, we have the Kat Kalamia's The Dancer #2. You can catch up with issue 1 and 2. There's a more psychological take on what would happen if a vigilante had to really look and see the damage that they themselves had caused. It's kind of like if Batman really realized that maybe he wasn't doing great things with his life. Good story. Came from Kat's life as a dancer and martial arts enthusiast, and Kat's just fabulous. So
Absolutely.
I guess I don't have to talk about Toddler Apocalypse. Do we have any time left on it?
No, it is funded, and I think it saw a last-second bump because it was at 90.59. I think it ended up at 9109. So
that was us, man.
That was totally us. Yeah, you're welcome, George.
Yeah. And then
I think that's it.
All right. Yeah. Well, we got one more comment I see up there. Make sure we didn't. I didn't. I took this out of context. He's such a little piece of shit. I forgot we were talking about Phil's character in Haunting. I was just like, who's the little piece of shit? I want to get on this. Well, you know what, Blake? You could be talking about Will or I when you say he's such a little piece of shit, and we'd appreciate it either way. So thank you, everyone, for hopping in, and I think we'll see you next week. We are hoping to have Bloom Pretty, the creators from the Bloom Pretty campaign. Allergy season hit really hard, so they weren't able to join us tonight. You know what? Real quick, why don't we check out that campaign? Because the art on it is absolutely gorgeous. It's for mature audiences, has some beautiful art, some sexy censored art on the page, but I'm perfectly fine with that.
Yeah, and Lisa Fowler is the writer, and she's been working on this project for a long time. So yeah, and it just jumped up while you were on the page, up to 460 backers already. Wow, I mean that's amazing.
It's an all-female team, so even though it is for mature audiences, and as we'll see when we get to it, there is some nudity in the book. It's also not, it doesn't feel to me from the outside exploitative or exploitative. It feels like they're telling the story they want to tell, and that story is mature and has some beautiful sensual artwork that tells that story.
Oh yeah, and the variant covers are spectacular. I mean, the standard cover is amazing, but then they've got some really awesome artists to do some variant coverage. I mean, it's just a beautiful project. I mean, look at that art.
Yeah, their fantasy deer is just extraordinary. A blue beast that's just gorgeous. So we will learn more about Bloom Pretty hopefully next week. And we've got some books coming up. We've got Fellhound coming up. We've got Russell Nohelty is going to be launching Cthulhu is Hard to Spell, the third and last volume of that anthology. We've got some great books coming. So please come check us out next Friday at 11 p.m. Eastern, or if you're listening on the podcast, everybody says this, so I guess rate and review it, and you know what, review it honestly, as long as you honestly think it's a 5-star, and if you don't, then don't review it honestly and give us 5 stars.
Exactly.
I'm not into lying, but I am into gaming the system. Okay, guys.
That's right.
So Shawnee says on the Bloom Pretty that she went for the Art Nouveau cover. So pretty. All of them are just absolutely gorgeous. Whatever you guys decided to call yourselves tonight, really appreciate you stopping in, and I'm really excited for the poll. Good night, everybody.
Yep. Take care. Good night.